Alex sat by the window, staring at the empty street outside. The leaves drifted in slow circles, carried by the autumn wind. He used to love this season: crisp air, warm tea, the comfort of a sweater. But this year felt colder. It wasn't the weather. It was the silence. Syria wasn't here anymore. She had moved to another city months ago, a decision made quickly without much warning. One day they were sharing late-night talks in the dorm lounge, trading stories of Earth and stars. The next, she was gone. "It is better this way," she had said in her careful, deliberate voice. "I must go where my people need me." Alex had nodded, because what else could he do? She was Vayari, part of an exchange program between humans and her kind. Her responsibilities went beyond him. Still, the space she left behind was heavier than he ever expected. He kept replaying their last conversation. He wondered if he should have said more or fought harder to keep her close. But humans didn't own anyone, and he respected her choice. That didn't mean he didn't ache. Nights were the worst. Alex would find himself reaching for his phone, thumb hovering over the screen, wanting to send a message. But what would he say? "I miss you?" Too heavy. "How are you?" Too plain. Every draft felt either too desperate or too empty. So the messages never left his screen. He told himself to move on, to focus on studies, on life. Humanity was resilient, wasn't it? That was their strength: adapting, surviving, pushing forward. But resilience didn't erase loneliness. It didn't silence the echo of a laugh that lingered in his memory, or the way she used to tilt her head when she listened, as if every word mattered. Some nights, he thought about walking away from it all, forgetting her, burying the memory. It would be easier. But something inside him resisted. Humans were stubborn that way. They held on, even when logic said to let go. Alex remembered one evening in the dorm when Soraya had been at her lowest. She had been trembling, fighting instincts she could not control. He had sat with her through the night, his hand in hers, even though he could have stayed distant. "Why do you help?" she had asked, and his answer had been simple: "Because you matter." That moment replayed in his mind now. If he could give her strength back then, maybe he could give himself the same strength now. Maybe caring for someone meant not giving up, even across distance. So he began small. He started writing letters, not messages, not emails, but letters in a worn notebook. He wrote about his day, about the autumn trees, about the small joys and struggles of being human. He imagined her reading them, golden eyes scanning the words with quiet attention. He didn't send them, not yet. But the act of writing gave him hope. Hope that one day, when the time was right, he would reach out. Hope that even across the stars, connection was possible. Because that was what made humanity special, wasn't it? Not the strength of their bodies, not the speed of their ships, but their refusal to let bonds break completely. Humans built bridges, even across impossible distances. Alex closed the notebook one evening, placed it carefully on the desk, and whispered into the quiet room, "I'll find a way back to you, Soraya." He didn't know how. He didn't know when. But hope flickered inside him, fragile yet bright. And in that small flame of determination, he felt the truth of humanity's power. They did not let go easily. They fought for connection, even when the universe pulled them apart. Days turned into weeks, and Alex still hadn't heard from Soraya. He checked his messages every morning, half expecting a reply. The screen always showed the same thing: nothing. No new messages. No small sign that she remembered him. At first, he told himself she was busy. Her people, the Vayari, were strict and proud. They demanded discipline from their young. Maybe she had no time for a human friend. But as days stretched on, the silence began to feel heavier. Alex walked through campus, surrounded by hundreds of voices, but he felt alone. He passed the places they used to sit together, the corner of the library where she traced her claws along the wooden desk, the small cafe where she sipped tea slowly, always thoughtful. The memories hurt like ghosts of something that used to be alive. He wanted to write to her. He wanted to call. But every time he reached for his phone, fear stopped him. What if she didn't want to hear from him? What if reaching out only pushed her further away? That fear pressed on his chest, a weight he carried quietly. One night, Alex sat at his desk, staring at the notebook where he had written letters he never sent. Page after page filled with words she had never read. He flipped through them slowly, his heart aching. Humans had a strange habit, clinging to hope even when it seemed foolish. Alex knew it. He could feel the foolishness. But still, he wrote another page. He wrote about the moon outside his window, about the way autumn leaves glowed in the lamplight, about how he missed her calm presence. When he finished, he closed his eyes. "What am I doing?" he whispered to himself. But deep down he knew. He wasn't ready to let go. The next morning, Alex made a choice. He walked to the small communication center on campus, the place where students could send long-distance messages across the stars. His hands trembled as he filled out the form. He didn't know what to say, so he wrote the simplest thing he could. "Soraya, I hope you are well. I miss our talks. I hope you are safe." Alex, he sent it before fear could stop him. For days, nothing came back. The silence was worse now, heavier, sharper. He regretted sending the message, regretted opening his heart. But still, somewhere inside, a spark of hope refused to die, because that was what humans did. They reached out even when the world told them not to. They risked rejection because connection mattered more than pride. One evening, Alex stood by the window again, looking at the stars. He wondered if she was looking at them too. Maybe across the distance she felt the same ache. Maybe not, but humans believed in maybe. That belief had carried them across oceans, through wars, even into space itself. Hope was not weakness, it was strength. And so, Alex whispered into the night, "I'll wait. As long as it takes." He didn't know if she would answer. He didn't know if their paths would cross again. But he held on to the simple truth of humanity. Even when everything seemed lost, they kept the door open, kept the light burning, kept hope alive. Because one message, one voice, one act of reaching out could change everything. Alex didn't have answers yet. He didn't have peace, but he had hope. And for a human, sometimes that was enough. The message came 3 weeks later. Alex almost didn't see it at first. His inbox was usually empty, but that morning a single notification blinked on the screen. His heart jumped. He opened it quickly, hands trembling. The words were short. "I am fine. I am busy. Take care of yourself." Syria, that was all. No warmth, no detail, no mention of missing him. Alex read it again and again, searching for something hidden between the lines. But the words stayed flat, like a door closed in his face. He leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. Part of him felt crushed. He had waited so long, hoped so much, and this was all he received. It would have been easier if there had been no reply at all. For hours he carried the weight of that message. He thought of deleting it, pretending it had never come. But he couldn't, it was still from her. It was still proof she remembered him, even if only for a moment. That night Alex walked through the campus, past the quiet library and the glowing street lamps. The cold wind brushed his face, but he barely felt it. He thought about all the times humans had faced silence before. Lost explorers waiting for signals, families waiting for letters across oceans, soldiers waiting for word from home. Silence had never stopped them. They endured. They believed. Maybe Soraya couldn't say more right now. Maybe her people watched her closely. Maybe she didn't know what to feel. Alex reminded himself of that. Humans didn't give up on those they cared about. Still, he was only human. He felt the sting of disappointment. He felt small under the stars, as if the distance between them was too wide. When he returned to his room, he opened his notebook again. He didn't write about the message. Instead, he wrote about hope. Today I remembered that even the smallest reply means the line is still open. Even a closed door is still a door. I will wait for the moment it opens again. The words comforted him. They reminded him of something deep in human nature, the refusal to let despair win. Over the next days, Alex kept writing letters he never sent. He wrote about the little things, how the leaves changed color, how a professor told a funny story in class, how the cafeteria food still tasted terrible. He imagined her laughing at that last part. Some nights he whispered to the stars as if she could hear him. "You are not forgotten. You are still here with me." He thought about sending another message, but he stopped himself. He didn't want to push too hard, didn't want to chase her away. Humans knew patience too. Waiting hurt, but waiting also kept the hope alive. One evening, while sitting at the window, Alex realized something. His sadness was real. His loneliness was sharp, but it hadn't destroyed him. He was still here, still writing, still hoping. That was humanity's gift. No matter how far someone went, humans carried their bond like fire in their chest. Distance could not kill it. Silence could not bury it. Alex closed the notebook and smiled faintly. Maybe Syria didn't know how much he still cared. Maybe she couldn't answer the way he wanted. But he would hold on. Because to him, hope wasn't weakness. It was courage. And one day when she was ready, he would be here, waiting with open hands, open words, and an unbroken heart. The weeks after Saraya's short message passed slowly. Alex went through his days, attending lectures, finishing assignments, walking across the campus like everyone else. On the outside, nothing looked wrong, but inside he carried a quiet ache. Every time he remembered her reply, so cold, so distant, it stung. Yet no matter how much it hurt, he couldn't let go. That wasn't how humans worked. Some nights, Alex sat by the window with his notebook, filling page after page with words she might never see. He wrote about the stars, about the way humans kept searching for light even when they were surrounded by darkness. He told her about little human traditions, sharing tea on cold nights, holding on to small objects that carried memories, singing songs when they felt alone. He imagined her reading those lines one day, her golden eyes softening, but still he didn't know how to reach her. One afternoon, Alex went to the campus library. He wandered past the rows of books until he found the section on alien cultures. He pulled down everything he could find about the Ve'ari. He read about their society, their rules, their strict codes of loyalty and honor. He read that they often kept their emotions guarded, that they believed showing too much attachment could make them weak in the eyes of their people. That explained her message, didn't it? She hadn't been cold out of cruelty. She had been careful. She was protecting herself. Knowing that gave Alex strength. It reminded him that her silence wasn't the end. It was just a wall. And humans were good at breaking through walls, not with force but with persistence. That evening he went back to the communication center. He sat there for a long time staring at the empty message screen. His heart raced as he typed slowly. Syria, I understand if you cannot say much. I only want you to know that you are not alone. Even if you cannot speak, I am still here. Alex. He hovered over the send button for minutes, fear gnawing at him. What if she ignored it again? What if she thought he was weak, foolish, too human? But then he remembered something his father once told him when he was a child. Humans survive not because they are the strongest, but because they keep trying when others give up. So Alex pressed send. Walking back across campus afterward, the wind cold on his face, he felt strangely lighter. He had done what he could. He had chosen hope over silence. Days passed. No reply came. But this time the silence didn't crush him the same way. He had sent his words, planted his seed. Humans believed in planting seeds even if they didn't know when they would grow. Instead of waiting by his inbox every hour, Alex poured his energy into his notebook. He began to write not only to Soraya but also to himself. He wrote about what it meant to be human, to fall, to hurt, but to always rise again. He wrote about how connections once made never truly disappeared, and slowly something changed in him. The sadness didn't vanish, but it became softer, easier to carry. It became fuel. He knew he still wanted her back in his life. He knew he would keep reaching out. But even if the silence stretched longer, he also knew this. He would not stop believing in the bond they had shared, because that was humanity's way. When the universe pulled people apart, humans lit a lantern and waited. When walls rose up, they knocked again and again, patient and stubborn. When distance grew, they refused to believe it was the end. Alex closed his notebook one night, whispered into the darkness, "You are not forgotten." And even though there was no answer, the hope burning in his chest was enough to make him smile. The days grew colder as winter crept in. Frost touched the corners of the dorm windows each morning, and the trees stood bare and silent. Alex wrapped himself in layers and walked across campus with his head down. Life went on around him. Students laughed, hurried to classes, and made plans for the holidays. But Alex carried his quiet burden. Each night he checked his messages. Each night there was nothing. He told himself not to hope, not to expect too much. Yet every time his phone screen lit up, his heart jumped. And every time it was just a reminder or school notice, the disappointment cut deep. The short message Soraya had sent weeks ago still lived in his memory. "I am fine, I am busy. Take care of yourself." That was all she had given him. He had answered with kindness, with patience, with hope. But silence had followed. Some nights he asked himself hard questions. Was he a fool for waiting? Was he wasting his time, holding on to someone who had already let go? But each time those thoughts came, another voice rose up inside him. A quieter, stronger voice. Humans don't stop caring just because it's hard. Humans don't stop reaching out just because the answer is slow. That voice reminded him of history. Humans had sent signals into the void of space long before anyone had answered. They had crossed oceans with no promise of land ahead. They had waited years for letters to reach loved ones across battlefields. Waiting was not weakness. It was part of who they were. And so Alex kept writing in his notebook. Page after page filled with letters Syria might never read. He wrote about the cold air that made his lungs sting in the mornings. He wrote about the library cat that always seemed to find his lap when he studied late. He wrote about the way humans celebrated the end of the year, with light and fire and songs of hope. Each word was a bridge. Even if it never reached her, it kept the connection alive inside him. One evening, sitting by the window, Alex whispered, "Syria, wherever you are, I hope you can feel this. I hope you know you are remembered." His chest ached, but there was warmth too. The longer the silence lasted, the more Alex realized something important. Reconnecting wasn't just about getting an answer. It was about staying true to his own heart. About refusing to let distance erase what mattered. About showing that humans didn't give up on the people they cared for, even when the universe made it difficult. And that thought gave him strength. The next morning, he woke with a clearer mind. He couldn't control Syria's choices. He couldn't control how her people lived or what duties kept her far away. But he could control his own actions. So Alex decided to send one more message, not desperate, not demanding, but honest. He typed slowly, "Syria, I don't know if you can reply, but I want you to know that your friendship still matters to me. Even if we are far apart, even if we never meet again, I am grateful for the time we shared. Humans believe in holding on to bonds, even across distance. I hope you are safe. Alex." He stared at the words for a long time, then pressed send. When the message was gone, he felt something shift inside him. The sadness was still there, but now it was lighter. He had spoken his truth. He had done what humans did best, reached out even into silence, even into the unknown. And in that act he found hope, because hope wasn't about guarantees. It was about courage, and Alex knew that as long as he kept that flame alive, distance could not defeat him. Snow began to fall, soft and quiet. The campus looked like a different world under its white blanket. Students threw snowballs, built lopsided figures, and laughed in the cold air. Alex walked through it all, smiling faintly at their joy but feeling the familiar ache in his chest. He had sent his last message to Syria days ago. He hadn't expected a reply, but hope still flickered every time he checked. The silence stretched on. One night Alex sat by the window, his notebook open. His pen hovered above the page, but no words came. He was tired. Tired of waiting. Tired of wondering if he mattered to her. For the first time, the thought of giving up pressed hard against his mind. But then he looked up at the stars. They were sharp and cold above the snow, shining as they always had. He thought of the explorers who had once looked at those same stars, wondering if anyone was out there. They had kept sending signals, kept trying even when the silence lasted for decades. That was what it meant to be human. With a sigh, Alex began to write again. "Today I almost gave up. But giving up would mean pretending you never mattered, and that would be a lie. Humans don't erase the people they care about. We carry them no matter how far apart we are. Maybe one day these words will reach you." He closed the notebook, feeling calmer. He didn't need an answer tonight. What mattered was that he stayed true to his heart. Hours later, as he was preparing for bed, his phone buzzed. At first he thought it was another school notice. But when he glanced at the screen, his breath caught. It was a message. From Syria. His hands shook as he opened it. The words were longer this time. "Alex, I read your letters. I do not know how to reply. My people do not understand friendship the way humans do. Here, showing attachment is seen as weakness. I am watched. But I want you to know I have not forgotten. I think of our talks often. Your words remind me of peace. Please do not stop writing." Alex sat frozen, staring at the screen. His heart hammered in his chest. Relief washed over him so strongly that he laughed, a sound half broken and half joyful. She remembered. She cared even if she couldn't say it openly. For the first time in months, the distance between them felt smaller. He typed back quickly but carefully. Syria, thank you. I understand. I don't need long replies. Just knowing you still think of me means everything. I'll keep writing. I'll keep sending light even if the world around you is dark. When he hit send, warmth filled him. The silence wasn't complete anymore. The line was alive. That night, Alex lay in bed staring at the ceiling, smiling through tears. He thought of how easy it would have been to give up, to stop reaching. But he hadn't. And now the bond between them was alive again. This was the heart of humanity. Not strength of body, not clever machines, but the stubborn belief that connection mattered. The belief that even when worlds pulled apart, even when silence pressed heavy, people could still reach across the distance. Alex closed his eyes and whispered into the quiet room. We're not so far after all. And for the first time in a long time, he fell asleep with hope burning bright in his chest. Winter deepened. The days were short, the nights long. But for Alex, something had changed. The silence was no longer empty. Syria had answered, even if her words were cautious. It wasn't much, just a short message hidden between walls of duty and fear. But to Alex, it was enough to know she remembered. Enough to know she carried their bond quietly in her heart. Every day he wrote. Some letters he sent, others he kept in his notebook. He told her about the snow crunching under his boots, about the way human children built forts out of ice and laughed until their cheeks turned red. He told her about the smell of pine trees and how humans decorated their homes with light to fight the darkness of winter. Her replies came slowly, always short, but they came. Sometimes just a sentence, sometimes only a word, but every message mattered. I read your story. The snow sounds beautiful. I cannot speak long, but I am glad you write. Each time, Alex felt the distance shrink, as if his words were threads weaving them together across the cold gap of space and culture. Still, the sadness lingered. He missed her voice, her presence, the way she tilted her head when she listened. Words on a screen could not replace that. One night, as he sat with his notebook, Alex admitted the truth to himself. I want more, he whispered. I want her here, but maybe I can't have that. His chest hurt, but then he thought about what it meant to be human. Humanity had always faced limits, oceans, mountains, storms, silence. But they had never stopped trying. They had crossed oceans with fragile ships, climbed impossible peaks, sent signals into the dark sky without knowing if anyone would answer. They had always chosen hope over despair, and Alex realized that was enough. Even if Syria never came back, even if their friendship lived only through scattered words, his choice to keep caring was not wasted, because humans didn't measure their strength by results. They measured it by heart. The next morning, Alex sent her another message. Syria, I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I want you to know that humans believe bonds last. No matter how far you are, I will carry our friendship with me. It is part of who I am now. Thank you for letting me share my world with you. He sent it without fear. It was his truth. Days later, a reply came. Longer this time. Alex, your words reach me when nothing else does. Among my people, I must hide my feelings. But when I read what you write, I remember that connection is not weakness. It is strength. You teach me what my own kind cannot. Perhaps one day I will return. Until then, keep writing. It gives me courage. Alex's hands shook as he read those lines. His eyes burned with tears, but he smiled through them. She had not promised anything. She had not said she was coming soon. But she had admitted something powerful. That his humanity, his persistence, had touched her. And that was enough. That night, Alex closed his notebook gently and looked at the stars outside his window. The distance between them was still real, but so was the bond. Strong, alive, unbroken. He whispered into the cold air. We'll meet again, Syria. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not soon, but one day. Hope flickered in his chest, steady and bright, because that was the heart of humanity. When others gave up, they kept believing. When silence grew heavy, they kept speaking. When distance tried to break them, they built bridges of hope. And in that simple act of not letting go, Alex showed the truth of HFY. Humanity's greatest strength was not power, but the courage to keep caring even across the impossible.